we go. October 23rd, 2023. We're here with the Sacred Ground Collective Circle of Vision. And welcome to our circle. So the first thing we're going to do is set the boundaries and the parameters of our circle. So I just invite you all to breathe. Let that breath bring your focus, attention right to the present moment and to the present place and to your physical body. You as a soul from beyond Earth are here in 2023, October 23rd, in a physical bodysuit that we all see and love, and they're so grateful to have you with us in circle time today. And we sit in the sacred space of sovereignty. This is our home, our space, our body, the energy of our divine families. We are here on Gaia, partnered with her. And we sit in the qualities that are from our home, which is of all good, all aspects of good, cocooned in the sixfold field energies to secure our connections to the divine, to hold the parameters and boundaries within the chaotic, toxic environment that sometimes we have to walk through, that the boundaries keep us clear and safe and upright. And we are here in respectful sharing and listening, knowing that in such a circle, good emerges and we are expanded into greater expressions of good, love, light, joy, and more. So we know that Gaia holds us also with her elements of earth, air, water, and fire. That the directions that move through us, bringing new beginnings, expansion, anchoring, and completions for new, are here with us. We are in those rhythms also as divine beings of light. And on our circle on Mondays, we ask that the platform that we are on be lifted up into our galactic worlds for that extra level of clarity and guardianship and connection to our home. And with that, our circle together, our time together, our space together is set, ready for each of us to place ourselves in that circle. Breathe and feel the stability. See what emerges from within you. And be present as we each put ourselves in the circle today. So I'll begin, and it's an opportunity when we're together in our Monday circle especially, that we can add into this field that is all intelligent, unlimited, of total activity and proaction in doing and bringing good, the divine good, the field, that we can place by name or number any individuals or groups, any living forms into that circle for that field to dissolve what seems impossible to us and open doors to greater good that are we are totally unaware of. So I'm going to ask you to place yourself by name, where you are on the planet. Any that you want to add to the field, just place them in the circle. And then I'll have you tag the next sister. So we'll just invite each sister as we go around. So Sharon Raji Maynard here. I'm on Whidbey Island in Washington State. And I am bringing 18 individuals into the circle and multiple world actions that are here to be identified and dissolved back to light. And I'm going to ask that the quality or the song within the field of harmony be sung for us. With that, I pass to Deborah Levine. And remember, we'll have to mute, unmute.
I'm Deborah Levine. I'm here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd like to bring 7 members of my family who are living in Israel into this circle. And the quality, the trait that I'm thinking of is courage. And now I pass this along to Evie.
Thanks. Evie in Anacortes, Washington. And I'd like to bring in 10 people to the circle. All world leaders, all world. I don't know if leaders is the right word, but those that are using dominating power to be redirected and transformed. And the quality I add to the circle is resilience. And I tag Sue.
Thank you, Evie. I'm Sue. I'm bringing in 27 people. And my word is healing. And Robin?
Robin?
I'm Robin from Anacortes. I'm bringing in 26 people. And I'm bringing in all warrior women. On world and off world. What character? I'm just gonna say a character of rising ascension. Of rising. And let's see, did we do it? How about Angelique?
Thank you, Robin. Hello, everyone from the Netherlands. I bring in 10 people and I pray for all children of the world in all 4 directions, and especially in the places where too much violence is happening. And I pray for the light over there. And my word is light. And I go to Lynn.
Thank you, Angelique. I'm Lynn Cashman. I live in the Marina District of Des Moines in the state of Washington. And I'm bringing especially my daughter into the circle today as it's her birthday. And she said an interesting thing to me when I said, happy birthday today. She said, oh, and happy birthday to you too, Mom. She says, happy giving birthday. And that was really sweet. It was something she's never said in her 50-some years. So to me is a sign of just more awakening for her too. And I bring in 15 other individuals, all those anywhere who are grieving, and many world situations. And my word is hope. And I will call on Audrey.
Hi, I'm Audrey and I'm in Wyoming, Pennsylvania, and I would like to bring in 49 people, all the children of the world, to keep their imagination and their wild freedom of joy intact. I like to also bring in the crystals and the rock people of the planet. And I have two qualities I'd like to bring in, and they would be determination and illumination. And Eve, have you gone? Marielle?
So I'm Marielle. I'm close to Montreal, Canada. I bring in generosity and abundance in the form of exchange of free goods. And what I bring in, all my cousins and second cousins, especially one second cousin who has passed away on October 13th.
Everyone. So I also want to bring in all of those Sacred Ground sisters and their partners and families and our partners and families into the circle with us today.
And Sue, did you do it?
Yeah, yeah, we're all ready to move there.
Okay.
So we have harmony and courage, resilience and healing, rising ascension, light, hope, determination, illumination, generosity, abundance, and a free flow of exchange of goods and good. And let's ask that those pillars of light that we are, that we be amplified a millionfold, that we don't need greater numbers, we only need the expansion of what we are holding a millionfold out into the world. We are here to hold that outcome of all good for all life forms in the best, most efficient and effective transition possible. And so it is. So I just completed hosting a 7-day event called Stop No. And any of you who were involved, thank you for being there. Thank you for adding your presence, your voice. And all of you have access to that email. I mean, the website, if you want to go there and participate by virtually through the work that was done. This is a time to really hold clearly what the outcome we want for our world, for our lives, for our children, for our grandchildren, and bringing in all the help from beyond earth into the heavens and beyond to help us get there as gently, effectively, and quickly as possible. So thank you for being here and for what all that you are doing in holding the world. So today we have with us Deborah Levine. Deborah Levine has a lot to share, and as most, so I'm going to let her kind of decide the direction she wants to take the conversation. She lives in, as you know, Chattanooga, Tennessee area. She's been working with diversity for a very long time. almost before I think it was a thing to work with. She's been my friend for a long time. So I'm so pleased to have her here. And to Deborah, I'm just going to let you tailor the time and presentation of what you want to share with us. And it's yours now, love.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me, everyone? Okay, I know I have a soft voice. So, in terms of diversity, I just want to start with a story, and that is, I grew up on the island of Bermuda. I was the only little Jewish girl on the island. And it was at that time a British colony. My mother and father had gone to Harvard and Radcliffe, so they were very literary, and my mom always told me stories all the time. It was wonderful. We talk about stories quite a bit, don't we? And she, in the 1940s, had published an article about the impact of stories on children. I didn't know that then. But what I found out was, I think I was destined, right, to be a storyteller myself. I didn't know that then. Most of us don't. But when I got to Harvard, there was a new major called folklore and mythology, and I signed up for it. Learning how stories have influenced people throughout the ages and why, and what is it that happens when people hear these stories. You know, I think it was you, Evie, who talked about the news being stories and how do you know they're true? There's a good reason for them being stories. They impact us at a level that goes beyond the intellect, even beyond the emotion. There's a sort of spiritual nature to stories. And I have a picture of me sort of in diapers with a pad of paper and a number 2 pencil. I must have started writing stories back then. When we came to the States, my father would take us to the library every weekend. And we were not allowed to leave until we had taken out a book. And he had approved it. Now, I didn't know back then that Daddy had been a military intelligence officer during World War II, but the attitude was certainly there. And so I learned all kinds of stories from the books that we took out. He also kept books in every room in the house. And for some reason, in my room was the Diary of Anne Frank. Right? He never mentioned it, but me being me, I picked it up and I read it. I read everything. And I said to him once, Daddy, what happened to her? All he said was, she died. I knew not to ask any more questions. But in looking back to it, I understood he could not talk about the war, but he could educate me as best way he could. And there were many books like that. But I didn't know what to make of it. And I asked him, tell me some stories, Daddy. Did you kill anybody during the war? And he said, no, but I slapped somebody once. I said, what? You slapped somebody? He said, yeah, I was a German prisoner of war I was interrogating. And all he said was he wished Hitler had killed more Jews. Well, I did not ask any more questions after that. I couldn't take it. And he knew it. And he didn't say anything more. But eventually, I think I was supposed to go in that direction and know more. Not that I wanted to, but it was, I think, my destiny. And when my mom got very ill, and we were in Chicago at this time, I took a job as in the American Jewish Committee for her sake, because she'd been an educator at the synagogue. And I thought it would give her pleasure to see me go in this direction, especially since I was coordinator of a national workshop on Christian-Jewish relations, right? What we call religious diversity now, and you're right, diversity didn't really exist as a term back then in the 1980s. Why me? I said, why are you hiring me? They said, because of your time in Bermuda, and because when you were in Harvard, you wandered over to Harvard Divinity School and took courses, even though you weren't allowed to as a freshman and sophomore. And I said, yeah, that never stopped me. So here we go. And it was then that I was exposed more to the Holocaust stories. I'm sitting there one day in the very early time of my time there, staring out the window, wondering what I was going to do. And a 6'5" Catholic priest dressed in the robes arrived at my doorstep, at the door. And he says, you're going to need me. I thought, I have no idea who you are, but I'm sure you're right. It turns out that the Reverend Dr. John Palakowski was going to mentor me. And I am so grateful for the angels I've had along the way. And I found out that John was one of the founding members of the United States Holocaust Museum Commission. At that time, I didn't know what Dad had done during the war. And so I couldn't tell John, I couldn't tell these stories. I couldn't know and didn't know until I decided to take a job in Tulsa, Oklahoma after the Oklahoma City bombing. And I was trained in security by the FBI to deal with neo-Nazis on our native soil. So Daddy kind of had a freak out when I called him and I told him what I was doing. And I said, I'm supposed to teach Holocaust survivors to tell their stories in an impactful way on TV. And can you believe this? Most of them have never even told their own families these stories. What do you think of that, Dad? He said, well, I never told you my stories either. So when he arrived, I arranged for him to do a radio interview, and I started hearing those stories. And I'm like, And then I learned he had kept all his letters from the war and my mom's letters to him hidden away in a file cabinet in the back of his closet. And that's when he gave them to me. Start writing, kid. It was hard to read, but apparently that was my mission. So I started writing, and former military intelligence officer says to me, well, you're coming along, which means it's a bunch of crap. Try more, try harder. And I kept doing it. I was not able to really write these stories till long after he had passed. And this book, The Liberator's Daughter, right, won awards. And then they wanted me to write more, and there is a sequel. But I'd like to share with you the fact that his letters, his stories, first-hand view are in this. And I'll read you one of them. He wrote to my mother, the stories of German cruelty and oppression are not just stories. They are the real thing. And much of this was done by what we call ordinary people, not just the party members, but a vast number of common citizens who fell easy prey to the baloney of National Socialism. People who were jealous, griped, depraved, and plain scared. A damn few seem to have had the courage to laugh in Adolf's face. I have met some of them and have only admiration for them because they fought in spite of everything and know on what side they stand and have always stood. So I have felt all along obliged to carry on my father's work, sharing not only what he saw, but the analysis that he put together of what had happened, because it so applies today, human nature of what is happening. And so I published this some years ago, but recently I felt I needed to do more. And so a friend, another angel, came and taught me how to write a script. And I wrote the script for a documentary using Dad's letters, my mom's letters, and I'll tell you the other one in a minute. But I put it together, and it turns out that my cousin, Jan, in Madison, is a theater director. And she, another angel, said to me, it'll be years before you get somebody to actually produce a movie. Why don't you do a radio theater show? Okay. And so I called up the local university radio station, and they helped me stage it online as an audio radio show. Unbelievable that it was then produced. And I talked to my cousin in Hollywood, who was a composer. I said, I don't suppose you might have time to go and do the music to it. Yes, I would. Okay. And so off he went and created the music for this documentary, Another Angel. Then I thought, how do you get these stories out so that they have a wider audience? Chattanooga's lovely, but I need something to change the world itself. So I went online and I found something called Jewish Life TV. And I said, how about you help me do something? And they said, well, how about you learn how to put the graphics to the audio and make the documentary yourself? I will help you. Another angel. And so, right, I again was taught how to make out of iMovie with graphics this documentary, harassed daily by this guy until I met his standards so that it would go international. It's called Untold Stories of a World War II Liberator. Dad's letters now have a life of their own, as do my mother's sweet, supportive letters to him. And while I was doing this, and I mentioned it on Facebook, a woman in Florida contacted me and said, I have the memoirs of a Polish Holocaust survivor. He has passed away, but I promised him that they would be heard. How about you include them? I said, well, I'll take a look. Next thing I know, she has sent me the originals through the regular mail. I almost had heart failure when they arrived, but it was meant to be. They were a perfect match. This can't be coincidence, right? It's just too much together, meant to be, and I put them in the documentary. And so you can read them along with the letters of my parents. Now, my dad was an archivist, and he kept all kinds of papers, including the speeches from the graduation ceremonies at Harvard, both him and my mom. And they talk about the war. All of a sudden, I have in my hands, right, the presentations by somebody who, Cordell Hull, the Secretary of State during World War II, Felix Frankfurter, United States Supreme Court Justice, and what he had to say. I put into the narrative something very personal about that, because I feel we all have personal stories to tell around these amazing events, horrific events. And the story I told about Felix Frankfurter was my grandmother, when she met him at the graduation ceremony, mistakenly called him Mr. Hamburger to his face, right? And we have laughed for decades over that human quality of history. And that's why I always say in a circle like this, each one of us has a story to tell, stories to tell. It's an amazing process if you haven't written them down yet. It transforms you. It lets you see where you're supposed to go. It gives you a little force in that direction so that those stories can blossom and influence other people, which is what I've always wanted to do. I think I mentioned in our 7-day course the Hebrew term tikkun olam, which means repair of the world. And that's something that I guess was supposed to be part of my being. If it wasn't, well, too bad. It is. This is who I am and have become through the process. And so I urge all of you to write down your stories and tell them, record them, share them. Family, sure, but beyond. And you will be so surprised at the response, as have I. The documentary, which I learned how to do. I'm 75 years old. Who would have thought, right, that I'd be learning to do this stuff? It has been a winner in international film festivals. Go figure. And part of it is because of the angels who have helped me. I have asked for help, and I hope you will too. But sometimes they're just standing there waiting for you to ask. Go for it, right? When I talked to my friend who taught me how to read scripts, right? He lives here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, but he was a Hollywood actor and producer. And I had asked him, you're going to laugh at this. I said, I've written the book, but I don't know what else to do, not me. How about you find somebody to write the script and produce it and all that good stuff? And he said, how about I don't? Because we don't have enough women in Hollywood doing this kind of work. How about you do it? But I don't know anything. Yeah, well, too bad about you, because you are going to learn. And I did. And it was not easy. I will share that with you again and again and again. Redo every inch of it. And I told my cousin Jan what was going on. And you know what she said? I'm jealous. If you say so. So just be thankful, when you get the criticism, when you get harassed about it, when you get negative comments, just say thank you, because they give you incredible information on what to do next, how to shape yourself, your story, right? Don't get mad. Just smile and take it in. That's what counts. And one of the things that I learned along the way is they really appreciate that, because not everyone will do that. And there'll be even bigger angels coming your way because you can. And they have. It's been amazing. Now, I drive my husband crazy because I'm like, I don't know anything. He says, you're amazing. I said, it's all been luck. No, it hasn't. And it won't be for you. It is your purpose that you are generating, blossoming, and giving people the benefit of it. And I still continue, right? Part of me said, well, I guess I'm finished now. What am I going to do next? I don't have anything to offer the world. Then I went back and I realized telling stories has been part of my life always. And 20 years ago, right, I had started telling some people stories from my childhood. And a gentleman from the local newspaper, who was their IT director, came up to me and said, what are you doing with those stories? I said, I don't know. He said, it's time for you to write them down, and then I will arrange for you to come to a broadcasting studio and tape them, record them. We will provide the music. I said, okay. So I started writing the stories, and I sent one of them in an email to a friend who actually taught, writing. And his response was, stop writing now. I said, is that bad? And he said, yes. And so I said, well, what do I do? He said, okay, you understand these stories for kids. Set up a teddy bear or something and pretend you're telling it to a kid. And then you could record it. Okay. And so I had a teddy bear in front of me, and I recorded them on my computer, edited this, that, and the other. And I did get to go to the recording studio. And I called the results Bunny Bear Adventures in Diversity Land, because Daddy had called us women in the family Bunny. Some things just stick in your mind. Well, I thought that was nice. But now, just in this past few months, I thought, you keep learning in this life. You keep elevating your skills. So I took the audio, I put it into iMovie the way I had done with the documentary, but I didn't have enough photographs the way I did in the documentary. So I learned how to use artificial intelligence to get those graphics, to create Bunny Bear and his people, the mermaids and whatnot in the stories, and made them into videos that can be used in the classroom. Now, that wasn't enough, apparently. So I used AI to translate the videos, okay, into a written teacher's manual. And then I thought, well, let's have a little fun. This isn't so horrible. I used AI to transfer the graphics I used into a coloring book. What fun. Now, every time I do this, I say, oh, I don't know if I have anything else left in me. And then everybody laughs. It doesn't matter how old you are, how much you have done or not done. You've got plenty left in you. In fact, there is nothing wiser, more capable than an older lady determined for tikkun olam. Absolutely. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Right, let's just sit for a moment and let that settle. And let's see if there's questions that emerge. Would be okay, Deborah, if there's a few
Yeah,
questions?
yeah, please. I love questions.
Evie, of course. Evie.
Where can we find the documentary?
Oh,
I put
okay.
it in the chat,
Put
Deborah.
it- Okay, here we go. Chat.
Yeah,
Okay,
is that the one?
let's see. Catalyst story necklace.
About untold stories. That's the
Yeah,
one.
that's the one. There you go. Yeah, you can watch the documentary, which is a little under an hour there. And there are other places too. It is up on my website, AmericanDiversityReport.com. Right? You can see it there. And you can also on that AmericanDiversityReport.com, you can see the bunny bear videos. There are 5 stories and an introduction. I narrate them. And one of them is called Never Too Young to Be Fair. Or Who is Really Disabled?
Can you repeat that .com again?
I've just put it into the. And this one will take you to her writing workshop, but you can also go from the writing workshop back to homepage. So there's the American Diversity Report.
Yes, which I created 16 years ago.
Wow.
Because I wanted to give people a voice. Oh, some of my stuff is up there, that's for sure. But I love giving people a voice. So there are submission guidelines for articles. If you're interested in writing, yes. I have recruited people from all over the world to write about what they know, what they have experienced, what their families have offered this world. And it's just a joy to be able to do that. We have a monthly newsletter, by the way, and if you would like to receive it, you can give me your email address and I'll add you to the to it. It's a joy, as I say, to share these incredible, diverse experts, what they know, what they've experienced. Sometimes it's about diversity in the workplace, but because I have so many interests, right? They're all there. One of them is climate change. And I know many of you have an interest in that, and that's up there too.
Deborah, what's your website, since there's a million Deborah Levines in the world?
Yes, there are. I'm going to tell you a story about that in a minute. So it's American Diversity Report.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's all right. And your email?
Deborah, Deborah, at AmericanDiversityReport.com.
Okay.
right?
Thank you.
Yeah. And this is, I'll share with you that back in the 1960s, when I was still in high school, right, they offered computer programming for the first time. And my mother, she said to me, "Dear, you need to take this course." And I said, "Well, I don't think so, Mom. I'm going to be a poet, a philosopher." And she said, "This is not a suggestion. This is the future." Okay. You did not mess with her, even though she had this soft voice like me. Yes, ma'am. And so I did. And it's amazing what our parents know about us that we can do and what we have done for our children and grandchildren in the same way. Because I ended up being an IT director of an office in the 1980s. And I do all of the IT stuff for the American Diversity Report myself, including the podcast. It's been quite a journey. And I know each one of you has done quite a journey that you might want to talk about, record, put down in writing. Did you know that the journey, right, is one of the templates most often used in folklore and mythology thousands of years ago? Because it is so impactful, starting from nothing, going through the challenges, maybe having a crisis, and then resolving. That's who we are, and people love it.
You know, Deborah, I'm gonna tell on you.
Oh no. Uh-oh, what?
I don't remember how many years ago Deborah showed up in my world. She said, "I don't know who you are, but I evidently I need something, and I don't know what you do, and it's kind of weird, but this is a different Deborah than back then. She was there, but she wasn't where she is today. And so it's been such a delight to see what happens when somebody reaches outside of her box, because her box is pretty big, I'll tell you, but reaches outside the box and says, "You know what, I'm stuck, but I think I have to stay stuck. I think I'm supposed to be stuck. I'm supposed to be this, you know." And when we add another piece, which of course we added the tag, which she wasn't sure about that either, because it was kind of weird, maybe still is weird, but this is a whole different Deborah. I mean, she's been able to bring out what her husband has seen in her for a very long time. Don't, you know.
And I'm so grateful that you were able to help me get unstuck and go forward with all of this.
Amazing.
It is, to the point where my daughter, when she came to visit me last year, she said to me, "Mom, you may not believe this, but when I was just a little girl, I could see dark forces following you around." And I said to her, "Sweetie, I do believe you. What do you think I called up Sharon for?" I knew I needed to be released from something. And so I am so grateful. I truly am. And I'm sure all of you have felt the same way. Are there any other questions or comments?
I will just say I am so honored that you are in our circle. And I know you just did a story training this weekend when will you offer that again?
How'd you know that?
Because Sharon shared it.
Oh,
It was just very short notice for me.
yeah. Well, this weekend that session was actually for something called the alumni National Association, Radcliffe Harvard. Okay, women. And yes, I did that. It wasn't really a public thing, so that's why I didn't give a lot of notice. But I am going to be doing that again on November 2nd for something called the Berlin Science Conference. And it is online on LinkedIn. I don't have my, let me see something here. Make sure I got the right thing here.
I think the link to it, Deborah, is in the chat also, and I'll send it out.
Okay.
Out.
Yeah. You send it out, and I'm going to be on November 2nd because it goes several days. It's all online. Well, my part is all online. And you can, I think, register for it. I think it's very simple. And hear what I spoke about this weekend for our alumni group. And I would love to have you join us.
I'll be traveling, so I'll just keep posted on your see on your website when you have a list of upcoming things.
Okay. And one of the things that I'll do is if you get my newsletter, I'll put it in the newsletter too.
Yeah, great.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I'll do an extra newsletter so that it comes out in time. And a reminder that I'm also going to be giving a memoir writing workshop coming up soon. And that will be both virtual and in person. So if you have an interest in actually writing that memoir, which I hope you will, whether you do it with me or not, go for it. Yeah. Anything else that people want to talk about, mention? So I'm going to ask you all a question, right? How many of you have actually written down a story, a piece of your life or your history? How many of you had done that? Ah, yay! What has it felt like to do it? What was it like? Was it hard?
Empowering.
Yeah? Anybody else? Yeah?
Liberate. It was liberating. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Liberating?
Yeah. Well, I have a story in a book with other women, and I can show it, and it's called No Ordinary Words, the book.
Oh,
I'll get it. I'll show it to you because it's
okay.
a lovely book. Many women wrote the most beautiful stories, and I was one of them.
Oh, that's sweet. So you go from writing the book, writing the story, to publishing the story, so others can read it and see it, right? My first thought when I was writing was, I'm never going to write about myself. Who cares, right? Oh gosh, we learn as we go.
Yeah, here it is.
Oh, the real life wisdom of women. Very nice. When did you do that?
I think it's 2 years ago now, something.
Okay.
And I really intend to write my story of my life, but it's so complicated and so much that I really don't know where to begin. I wouldn't know. So-
Just so you know, right?
Oh, you will. Yeah, it will
Most,
come.
okay, but also just so you know, most people who start off to write their memoir like that have the same exact feeling. You are
Mm.
not alone. Okay? You are
Good
not.
to know. Yeah, good to know.
I have a question. Um, I started years ago writing my life story, thinking I would share it with my daughter. And it's in a file here, but I'm embarrassed to share it because there are parts of it that I feel shame around. So how do you get, and I haven't gotten past that, to know how honest am I going to be to fully leave my life story? Is that something that people struggle with besides me?
Oh, yes. I think when I wrote this book, right, I put nothing in it that would shame me, right?
Mhm.
Then I got feedback, and if feedback included, well, can't you make it a little more personal and tell us a little bit more about yourself? And I thought to myself at first, no. And then I realized that with time, I had changed my view of what I could share. And so, hold on. Part 2, the magic marble tree, right, is totally human. So it takes time to get to that point. And the reason I call it the magic marble tree is I tell this story about being a kid, right, in Bermuda, right, playing with marbles, the cat's eye marbles. And my older brother comes up to me and says, you know, if you plant one of those, it'll grow into a marble tree and you can have all the marbles you ever wanted. I said, wow, that is cool. So I dug, and I put them all in and I put the mud over them, right? A week later, I come back, there's nothing there. And I said to Joe, my brother, I said, what's happened? I can't even see them. I can't find them. And he just says, I can't believe you fell for that. Right? You're an idiot. But I wanted to tell that story, and it has resonated with people so well that I named the whole book after it. It's that humanness that people really resonate to. Now, you can edit a little bit, massage it, so you can try it out on somebody, right? But those human pieces, right, are their morality tales of what not to do. There are two basic kinds of stories, one with a happy ending and one with a don't do what I did because you'll be really sorry kind of ending, right? And those two kinds of stories have been repeatedly used for centuries because the power of them is just so deep inside us. They change lives, ours and the person reading it. So think about that as part of what you're doing, that you're sharing a morality tale, right? That could help somebody immensely. Does that help?
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Yes, Marielle.
Did you go in the Akashic records to try to understand your family's story, your family's history?
So, are you asking, did I go through records and
Through Akashic records, through past lives?
okay. The answer is yes. That especially after having worked with Sharon and realizing that I could in a sense be there in some way. Now it would be generated through some of their letters, photographs, but the photographs would have an impact on me beyond just looking at what my great-grandmother looked like. Especially one with my great-grandmother, great-grandfather, and 4 of the 8 sons. And my grandmother's writing over the photo that says, "The pests." You know, I could almost hear her voice and see her, and it brought the whole nature of her into me. And I was able to write about her so much differently, so much better. And indeed, I'm not surprised that in the end, my daughter is more like my grandmother than I ever had imagined she would be. Something just kind of generated down into the next stage of life. So it's been a wonderful journey. And I wish you could have met my grandmother, by the way. She was something else. Oh, gosh. I remember calling her in Bermuda when my daughter was just like 2. And I wanted her and my daughter to at least say hello. And but I told my daughter, you can't talk to her until you finish your breakfast. And my daughter is like, I'm not finishing my breakfast. I want to talk to her now. And the 2 of us went back and forth. And all of a sudden I hear my grandmother's voice on the other end of the phone. Will you please let the kid do what she wants? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's how my daughter turned out. And I laugh because there is so much joy in this kind of journey of pulling together the energy from past lives, from people who are no longer with us, right, and sharing it. And
But by past lives, I meant like your past life yourself and the past life of your father. Sharon, help me explain what I mean.
I think Deborah understands, and she does it in the way that she does it. And she's very intuitive. So it may not be that, Deborah, that you brought that into the writing, but into your own personal experience. I know that she's, from my work with her as I've watched her, has maybe broadened her understanding. It certainly has helped. That kind of thing has certainly helped her be free to be more of who she is in this lifetime. But I don't know that you brought that into the writing itself, Deborah. Any past life kind of energies.
the in the writing, especially in the sequel, right? I think you'll see a sense of the of having been in the past life. Now, do I actually write it down as such? No, that I have not done. I have translated it into a written word that can be understood in many different cultures and diverse generations, which is something that is part of my goal in life. So I share it with the people I've grown up with, I grew up with in Bermuda. And it's it's amazing to me. I think they recognize the past lives more than I do. Yeah.
Because it seems to me that when there is such an intense story, like being involved in the liberation, like your father was there must be like the equivalent intense relationship in the past life, because this is not an ordinary life.
No, not at all. And I think that one of the things that Sharon and I did was to understand that I was surrounded, right, by the souls of those who perished in the Holocaust. They recognized in me someone who they could be with, but it was overwhelming. Did my father have the same kind of view? No way. He was cut and dried. And yet, every now and then, I could glimpse with him this sort of sense of being hopelessly lost. And it had its own beauty. But somebody who has been a military intelligence officer, basically assigned to be one, a spy, two, an interrogator of Nazi prisoners of war, right? Had to push down any past lives, any reaction into some kind of cave within their being in order to survive. Every now and then it would come up. But he kept it totally cordoned off so that he could have a life. Now, I've talked to other people, either who are Holocaust survivors' children, or who have had liberators as dads as I have, right? And their experiences have been fascinating to me. One of them, for example, insists on writing her father's story. That's her goal. And I recognize that. One of them didn't know what to do because every night when her father fell asleep, he'd be screaming in his sleep. And they had to deal with that. So there are ramifications to being these people. And I'm very fortunate that my father was able to survive and do what he did, which in his retirement was being the chief financial officer of the American Jewish Archives, preserving the history for people to see and know for generations to come. That was his passion, along with protecting his family. Don't mess with him. Trust me. I once asked somebody he worked with, another rabbi, I said, do you have any idea what it was like to grow up as the only daughter of Aaron Levine? And he said to me, let's just put it this way. You're damn lucky you had your mother. So, yeah. And, you know, I know that it is in me as it was in him, because the psychologist explained to me that people like that, who have buried those memories, those feelings inside them so deeply, they, in some way, pass it on to the next generations, up to 5 generations, and see what we are able to do with it. It was only really when I met Sharon that I was able to release some of that and deal with it. Horrifying stuff, even if it was just the emotions and not the pictures. But really, I'm very grateful that I've been able to do it. And it's not an easy process. Trauma has a way of silencing us. But overcoming that opens you up to doing so much and to having more joy than you thought you could.
You know, Deborah, that kind of makes me think of another experience for me of writing my story was when I had a doctor in a pain clinic I was going to, dealing with some physical pain caused by the ineptness of a physical therapist that had happened years ago and caused me years of pain. His assignment to me was to rewrite that story with me not as a victim, but as a hero in that story. And I did it. It was hard to do, but I did it, finding the grace that had happened because of it over the years or whatever, and was able to write it so I came out the hero instead of the victim. That was incredibly powerful. I don't know if that's anything you've experienced or shared with anyone, any of that experience.
Oh, yes. It's part of the process, the transformation that goes along with writing. So many times my health has been so bad, I have lost everything. I had to leave Radcliffe. I ended up in a mental institution. But what has happened, right, has given me incredible empowerment to carry on. And people recognize that in you. Even if you don't say anything, somehow they see that incredible power, and it attracts, engages, and inspires other people to do the same.
Thank you.
Audrey, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, I wrote a book, and it was terrifying, scariest thing ever. But freedom, and I put everything in it. And I was afraid of shame, Lynn, And I put the good, the bad, the ugly. And it hasn't sold a lot of books. And I really was thinking about that. But if it helps one person, it's a success. And it's a success for me because I use my voice to write my story. So I worked through that, all of the, I put everything in it, everything. And I opened my life to the world. And it's liberating. It really, truly is liberating. Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you. So as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, oh, I think I need a sequel, Out of the Shadows and Into the Light.
Yes. I know that one. That sequel thing is just amazing. You will be so surprised in a wonderful way as you do the sequel, how it turns out. It was just a pleasure. All right. So for the memoir, it took me 20 damn years to write that thing. For the sequel, 1 year.
What a treat, what an honor we have. Not just, Deborah, so wonderful to have you here. And the women in this circle, those that are present and those that will be visiting vicariously, I'm sure, will love you as we know we love each other. And you bring up that stories have a happy ending, or they have don't do what I did ending. And I want to propose that in this moment, each of us tune into that inner core that we are, the quality that we feel in this moment, and name it within ourselves. What's been activated within you? Name it, grab it. And then be the candle that broadcasts that resonance into the world a millionfold. A millionfold. And learn from the story from Aaron Levine that the common folk in Germany did one of two things. They went along with the hatred, or they were strong enough to say, not in my life and not in my world and not in my country. And let's learn from them that in this moment, in this circle, with everything that's going on out into the world, we say, not in our world, not in our lives, our families, not 5 generations down. We in this moment gather in the clouds of pain and hatred being broadcast by those who would dominate, not in your world. With our power as present in a physical bodysuit, female, we put our staff in the ground and say, this is our life, our world for generations to come, and in our sword into the sky, and we say, eradicate back to extinction energy vibes from agendas of domination, violence. Absolutely not. And the ending we hold, the vision we hold and we broadcast is who we are as star beings, souls from beyond. Our world is quickly transformed, filled, and earth restored to all that is good. We not forget the past, we learn from the past, but we eliminate what would cause past atrocities to continue, not in our. So as we close our circle with great gratitude, thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for being who you are. And with that, let's unmute yourself and just a hug, virtual thank you in whatever way you want. So much gratitude for being with women such as you. Blessings.
Shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope we all take our courage and share those parts of ourselves that even feel shameful, because we all experience that. And it's when you share them and can release them, it's when you can find some peace around it. Thanks.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sharon.